Hi everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today we are continuing our Comfy UI series to look at how to replace and fix faces and hands, something that has been much requested by many of you. To achieve this, we're going to install the Comfy UI Impact Pack. You can do so using the Comfy UI Manager down here. If you don't have the Comfy UI Manager installed, you can follow this short tutorial to get it set up quickly. So to find it, we head into Install Custom Nodes, and it should be the second one available here by Dr. LT Data or Dr. Lieutenant Data, who happens to be the same person who created the Comfy UI Manager. If it's not showing up for you, just search for it here, like so, and you can go ahead and install it. I've already got it installed, so I'm not going to do that now. And if you're installing it for the first time, you will need to restart your Comfy UI. So go ahead and terminate that and relaunch it. Now, before moving on, I just want to say a quick thank you to all of my patrons on Patreon. Your support means a lot and gets me closer to putting out better and more regular videos. If you want to support the channel and you find it helpful, please head on over and you can support with as little as $2. The funds just help me cover the expenses in AI generation, and soon I hope to be able to onboard an editor which will help me bring out videos faster. And so, to not take up any more time, without further ado, let's hop on in. Now, since we've covered this in the past, we're going to start with the basic Stable Diffusion, XL, and Refiner workflow. If you want to follow along, the file that gets us set up like this is in the description below. So I'm going to grab the image file here, which is the same one that's in the description. We're going to toss it on in, and it should give you a layout that looks like this, where we've got the K-sampler set up with a positive and negative SDXL nodes, the base checkpoint, the refiner checkpoint, and if we go ahead and queue it up, we will get an image. And as you can see here, we now have a starting image. Now, the face is not bad. It's very workable, but the focus of today's session is we're going to try and improve the face. So the main node that we're going to use for this is one called Face Detailer. And you can find that in the impact set that we installed earlier. So we go ahead and double click and we can find it here. You'll find two: Face Detailer and Face Detailer Pipe. We will get into Pipe later. For now, just grab a Face Detailer. Now, as you can see, this is quite a chunky node. So let's go through the components one by one. Starting with the upper left, we can have a look at the inputs. Now, we should be familiar with most of these by now. We've got the image, which is the image that we just saw. We will be inputting it into the Face Detailer model. This will be the model that generates the new face, and of course its associated clip and vey, as well as the positive and negative prompts. Initially, we're just going to use the same ones that we use to generate the image, but typically here you could customize it with separate prompts specific to the face that we will be replacing. Now, we have a bunch of new inputs here that you will see different from the K-sampler: B-box detector, SAM model, Segem model, and the detailer hook. For now, the only input that is relevant to us is the B-box detector. The rest of these are optional, and like I said, we will go through them later and understand what they do. So what is the B-box detector? Well, when you installed the Impact Pack, it also installed a bunch of additional models. And the B-box is basically the component that recognizes the element that we are going to replace, which in this case will be the face or the hands. So to make use of this input, we use a node called the Ultralytics Detector Provider. And if you installed everything correctly, you should have here a few models that you can use: the B-box Face YOLOV, B-box Hand YOLOV, and Segem Person YOLOV. You'll also notice that the Ultralytics detector has two outputs: B-box detector and Segem detector. For now, we are going to just connect the B-box detector to B-box detector, and you'll notice here in the model, as part of the name, you've got B-box Face, B-box Hand, and Segem Person. And what that basically means is there are different types of models to detect the elements. If it's a B-box model, it detects the component by using a bounding box. And if it's segem, it detects the item using masks. So our face and hand models are B-box, which means that they use bounding box, whereas the person detector is a segem. So that would mean you would need to connect up segem detector. So for now, we'll just use B-box. Now we're just going to go ahead and connect up all of the standard ones. Now that does seem like a lot of nodes to connect up one by one. So there is a simpler way to do this. And I'm going to introduce the concept called pipe. So if we look here, as part of the installation, you will have a bunch of pipes. And the one that we're looking for is this one, to basic pipe. And what this is basically going to allow us to do is it is a input combiner. So we can go ahead and grab various inputs. So let's go ahead and plug it in, the model, the clip, the vey, and our positive and negative prompts. At this time, we're not going to change up anything. And it just allows us to move all of the nodes together. So we will come back to this later, but for now, we are just going to unpack the pipe. So just like we did to basic pipe, we can grab from basic pipe. And for now, you can go ahead and ignore version 2. So we'll just connect up the two pipes. And now we've got all of the inputs available here for us to just plug in quickly. And like I said, there is a way to simplify this further, but we're going to break it down bit by bit. All right, so we've got that set up. We're not going to touch any of the settings for now, but you will find some things that are similar to what we've seen in the case sampler before. We've got a seed, control after generate, number of steps, CFG, the sampler name, scheduler, as well as a bunch of other stuff. So let's see what this face detailer does. We're just going to grab some previews. So let's plug in the image. And then we're just going to clone this a couple times and grab the crop refined as well as the crop enhanced alpha. And this will just help us understand what is going on here. Now, the final missing component here is we need to grab, of course, the image that is going to be face replaced. So let's go ahead and grab this here. We'll just grab a rerouter to make it easy to move around. And let's just pop this up here. Now, just for comparison's sake, let's just bring up the image that we had outputted before. And let's go ahead and make this one the same. So this one is the one that's linked up here, image to image, so we can compare. And then we can just toss these two up here as they're just going to be references. And let's go ahead and queue it up. Oh, looks like I did not get the, this always happens. So positive to positive and negative to negative. There we go. I forgot to mention, I had added this earlier just so that we've got a little bit of impact on the face detailer. I just threw in there South American woman. And we can see here that there is a substantial change, right? We have here the base face, and then this is the adjusted face. And we can see that it is quite different. We're just going to empty this out because I actually hadn't planned to put anything in here. And we'll just have a look and see what the basic work looks like, or the basic output. But as you can see, it does a pretty good job. So here, this is now the basic one. And we can see here that the face is changed. Now, I don't actually think the face is better than the base one. We got a pretty good face out here, and it feels like the replacement is actually a step back. Structurally, it looks fine, but I feel like it's a bit more airbrush. It's got kind of lacking that finished look and feel. So there's a few things that we can do about that. But before that, let's have a look and see what the crop refined and the crop enhanced alpha actually did. So you'll see here that we've got a crop of the area that was detected to have the face. And then from here, the model refined it further to find the character's face. And this is what was eventually replaced, as we can see here. So let's bring it down and study this a little more carefully. And in this case, it's actually showing us the output. So you can see here the overall cropped output and then the more close-in one. And if we study it carefully and actually look here, even at the corner of the hair, on the original image, we've got a few strands of hair here. But if we look at the part, it's untouched. But coming over here to the forehead, we can see that this corner of the hair was modified slightly. So this is what was eventually modified. Okay, so now that we've understood what is happening here, let's start to play around with this and see what are the options available to us with the face detailer. Now, the first thing that we're actually going to do is we're going to run the face replacer through a second round of face replacement. And we can do that by improving our pipelines a little bit. So as we saw earlier, we created here a 2 basic pipe and we packed everything up and then we unpacked it here. So what we're going to do now is we're actually going to grab the face detailer pipe. And we're just going to head up here and put it over here. So let's plug in the image and understand what's happening here. So we've got the basic pipe. And now we have something called the face detailer pipe. Oh, sorry, not that one. So we've got 2 new nodes here. We've got basic pipe to detailer pipe and to detailer pipe. In this case, we've already created a basic pipe with the model, clip, vey, and positive and negative prompts already set up. However, if we knew that we were jumping straight into the face detailer, we could have just used the 2 detailer pipe and just plugged them in here and then just added on the B-box detector. Then from detailer pipe, we can just plug it in to detailer pipe and everything would have transferred over. However, in this case, because we have started with the 2 basic pipe, we are just actually going to take the basic pipe and bring that over. We're going to grab the B-box detector and then we're just going to feed everything into the detailer pipe. And I'm going to go ahead and delete this one and just connect my outputs again. And we'll just run it one more time to make sure that everything works, which in this case it hasn't. Because, and this is really important, when using the face detailer pipe, don't forget to force in paint. So we did that, and now let's run it. And we can see the face detailer worked, with arguably a better output this time. Now, as I mentioned, we are going to run the face replacement through a second pass. So we can go ahead and do that by cloning the face detailer. And you'll see here that on the first one, there is a detailer pipe. And we're just going to plug that right in and pass on the same image. And that's it. Everything's going to come on through. And then we will just grab a preview image. And this time I'm not going to go ahead and grab the crop, refine, and alpha. I'm just going to grab the output because we know what is happening. And let's queue it up. And now we have another output. So let's have a look and see the 3 versions. So this is the original, which, as I said before, gave us a pretty good output. This is the first pass, the first revision, and this is the second revision. And we can actually see that there's a lot of similarities between the first pass and the second pass, with this one feeling a little bit more refined. The mouth area looks a little bit better, the nose area looks a little bit better, and we can see a little clarity in some of the features, but it's still kind of got that painted airbrush look. Okay. Now, coming back here, there's a few further improvements that we can do. If we have a look at the basic pipe to detailer pipe, and the same features are available on the 2 detailer pipe, which contains all of the extra ones, we have here a wildcard spec. This is where you can add in some additional prompting to provide specifics on the face, we can also add in a LoRa. Now, I had previously downloaded the Faces V3 LoRa, and I tested it out, and I personally wasn't happy with the results. We're just gonna add it in here and just run the prompt, and you'll see what I mean. I think it makes, well, I don't think, it's pretty obvious it makes it considerably worse. Yeah, as you can see, this is the output with the LoRa. The LoRa is supposed to be for SDXL, apparently, so there shouldn't be a problem. We are doing this at 1024, but I haven't gotten the LoRa to work yet. If you guys want to have a look at it and let me know if you're able to make it work with SDXL, I would love to hear from you. So in this case, we're just going to go ahead and delete it. And then, for the wildcard, there's a few sample things in here, which is pulling from the folder. I have not explored this yet, and I haven't found that I've needed to. So one of the reasons that the replaced images could be having that airbrushed, painted look, oh, that's a really good one, could be because if you have noticed, we are actually using the SDXL base model. And as we know, SDXL, when you're using the base model, it's designed to be used with the refiner model. Fortunately, Dr. Lieutenant Data, is that his name? Dr. Lieutenant Data. How am I just realizing that's a Star Trek reference? Anyway, has gone ahead and actually created for us a 2 detailer pipe SDXL. And let me see if he has a basic, here we go, basic pipe 2 detailer SDXL. And you'll notice here that this version of the pipe has an input for base and refiner pipes. So we've got here our base pipe. So we're going to actually plug that into the basic. And then we're going to make a basic pipe for our refiner model. So if we come down here and grab 2 basic pipe and just plug in our refiner inputs. Let's get the prompts right this time. There we go. And if we bring this up and plug it in, grab our bounding box detector, close that one out, and plug this one into the face detailer, we now have the basic and refiner models plugged into our face detailer. When you do that, something new comes up. You'll notice here in the face detailer, all the way at the bottom, there is an option for refiner ratio. And this basically tells the face detailer, based on the number of steps, at what point do you want to stop using basic and start using the refiner. In this case, it's set to 0.2, which means that the last 20% of steps will be done using the refiner. So in this case, at 20 steps, 10% is 2, 20% will be 4. So the last 4 steps will be done using the refiner. And because we're piping it into a second pass, you'll see that the same is there. So let's just queue it up and see what the outputs look like. Now, as we wait, my personal previous experience has still not been great. I have another technique that I prefer to use, but once again, if you guys mess around with it and get better results, I would absolutely love to hear them. So once again, this is the original image. This is the first pass through the face detailer. And, we start to see some of the issues with SDXL where you've got the mouth with the buck teeth or the messed up teeth. The eyes are still not very great. And then the second pass does look better, but I am still not happy with it. The eyes look a little off. The mouth looks a little off, and it's still kind of airbrushed. What is good though is you can see that from the first pass to the second pass, it's not a drastic difference, but it is an iterative improvement. We could try running it through several more passes. A couple of things that we can also do is try and adjust the refiner ratio. So why don't we try and give the refiner 30% of the output on the first pass and 20%, sorry, not output, 30% of the steps on the first pass and 20% on the second one. And we can start to see here quite a substantial improvement. I quite like this one, but it's still not quite perfect. There's still a little disfiguring in the eyes. You can still kind of see the teeth. There's a little more detail in the skin, but again, it's not as good as some Stable Diffusion models that we've seen. And again, the second pass, we're again running into artifacting and issues and whatnot. Now, part of the reason why it could be like this is, as I mentioned, like the case sampler, we can select the sampler that we're using. In this case, we're using Euler, which, if memory serves, works better with more steps. So let's try and add on an extra 10 steps here. Keep the ratio the same. And I'm not going to touch the second pass yet, and see what kind of results that gives. And we can start to see with Euler and a little more time in the oven, some of the issues start to disappear. The mouth looks a lot better. We're not having those teeth sticking out. I'm still not very happy with the eyes and the skin, but it is a definite improvement. And once again, in the second pass, it gets worse and it gets better. So since we know 30 steps worked pretty well for the first pass, let's give that a go as well. And once again, this is what it looks like at 30 steps. Again, sorry. And that's what it looks like at 30 steps. Once again, it is an improvement. We're seeing more definition in the eyes. The teeth are still there, but they don't look worse. A little more detailing in the face. Let's give it a few more steps. Let's crank it up to 35, and we're still doing 20% on the refiner. Okay, and this is what it looks like at 35 steps. I think it's starting to look worse again. Maybe we've overbaked it in the oven a little bit. Let's give it one more go, and then we'll move on to other techniques. Yeah, once again, we can see here at 35, the quality starts to deteriorate. It is starting to feel like it's a little too many steps. I'm going to try one more thing. Because we've increased the number of steps, let's try and boost that refiner ratio to 25%, or 30% in this case, round it up, and see if that makes a difference. And once again, at 35 steps, it's just not working out. So what else can we do? Well, this is where Comfy UI really comes together in its strength. So the solution that we're going to use to try and fix the face situation is we're actually going to try and use a different model, a more fine-tuned model. In this case, we're going to use the DreamShaper model, which you can grab from Civet AI, link in the description below. So we can go ahead and load up the checkpoint. And we've got here DreamShaper XL. Now, DreamShaper is one of those models that does not require the separate refiner. I believe it has the refiner built in. So what we're going to do is we don't actually need the SDXL detailer pipe anymore. So we're going to get rid of that and just use two basic pipe. So let's go ahead and connect up the model, the clip, and the V. Now, one of the things that we do need to do is you'll notice here the positive and negative prompt. These are connected to our original clips, clip text encoders, which are using the base SDXL clip. That's not going to work. So we're just going to go ahead and clone them. And once again, for now, we're just going to use the same text inputs as the base one. But if you do want to provide customized input to your face detailer, I suggest you go ahead and just create new primitives and plug them into the SDXL text encoders so you can provide body part specific conditioning. And we'll try that later just so that you can see how it runs. Just to move it around more easily, I'm going to make a group. And then we can just drag this up over here. Okay, so let's plug in the correct conditionings, clip them up to the DreamShaper model, so that the inputs get understood correctly. And then we'll just plug in the basic pipe to the detailer pipe, which I deleted earlier. Basic pipe to detailer pipe, not the SDXL version. Let's go ahead and plug that in. Plug in our B-box detector. Plug in our detailer pipe, and we'll just leave it and let it run through 2 passes as we did before, just so that we can see what's happening. Now, I am just going to reset the steps here to 30 because we are using Euler and 35 didn't seem to work last time. And that should be everything that we need to give it a go. Let's run it and see what a difference DreamShaper brings. And wow, would you look at that? That has definitely got to be the best face that we've gotten so far. Really good facial structure, really good eyes. Again, not perfect, could be better, but definitely a step up from what we've seen before. And again, this is the second pass. So let's continue to tweak this and modify it further. So as I said before, we're now going to add in some primitives. So we're now going to add in some primitives so that we can try and get some better results for our faces. And we can see here part of what could be messing it up is that these are very general prompts for the whole image. And the model is taking all of this and trying to apply it to the face because we are reapplying it to the face detailer. So let's try and simplify this and let's pick an ethnicity. So let's say Indian woman, right? And then we're just going to keep the secondary prompts here, 8K detailed digital photography realistic. And then for the negative prompts, again, cartoon, 3D, disfigured, bad art, a whole bunch of different things. I'm just going to add here painting, watercolor, blurry, and see what that does for us. Okay, not the cleanest result, but you can see here the rest of the image is untouched and the model has tried to apply our prompt to the area that is replaced. And interestingly, if you look at the second pass, it hasn't just taken the ethnicity, but it's kind of taken the prompt and made it stronger in the second version, which I think is quite interesting. Let's try a different ethnicity. Right, let's try Latina. And again, we can see here in the second pass, while I'm not happy with the mouth and teeth area, the features are definitely a lot stronger towards that Latin persuasion. Let's try one more. Let's try Caucasian woman. Oh, in this case, I think the first pass was a lot better. And we can continue to play around with the prompts. I'm going to add in here laughing. It did not work well with that one. We're going to give it another pass, but we're going to try a different sampler. And again, we are getting slightly better results on the first pass, but it's still not perfect. And this is kind of the trick with this is it is going to take a little bit of messing around between figuring out the right prompt and the right model. What makes this really powerful is we can actually take some of the SD 1.5 models, which as we know are very well established and fine-tuned. And if we like one that has a very particular output, we can use that one to just focus on the face and let SDXL work on the rest of the image and then let SD 1.5 plug in the faces, and then we can obviously upscale that. We also have the option of using specific LoRa. So for example, if you've got a LoRa of someone specific, let's say Brad Pitt, Angelina Jolie, or whatever, you can use that LoRa to just replace the face. So you use SDXL to create the overall image and then just replace the face with a detailer. And unfortunately, I think we're out of time today. I did want to go through each of these one by one, as I've done in the case sampler videos, but I think I will have to make a separate video focusing on what each of these do. So that will be our next video. Thanks so much for tuning in. I hope this was helpful, and I hope that you're able to now successfully adjust faces. We haven't gotten the best results today, and so I would be really keen to hear from you guys what combination of results is working really well for you. Are there any models that are working really well for you? And if you found this video helpful, please don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you do get a chance to drop by my Patreon, I am, as always, eternally grateful to everybody that has contributed. Thanks so much, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.